Well, guys, this is not a video that we really wanted to make, but a lot of you have asked, so we felt it was only fair to let you know, because we try and include you in what's going on in our lives.
Yeah, it's been a while since it happened, but...
That's right. We waited a while so that it would be a little bit easier to shoot this for you all. As you all may know, we had our two longtime family members, Rocco and Bailey.
What are you doing? We're gonna put more rock there. You can't stay there, bud. Is that nice and cool right there? Come on, Bailey.
That have recently passed. Bailey had an injury and wasn't able to recover, and shortly after that, Rocco developed a severe case of heart failure.
Yeah, it was only it was like less than a month.
And he had passed as well. But as you guys saw in some of our other videos, all of a sudden there was a shepherd here on the homestead.
Yeah.
And that shepherd was, we named him Samson. And we thought it would be good to share his story because he was a good boy.
He was a really good dog.
He was a really good dog.
We originally got the dog from Tara and Jason. The dog had wandered onto their property one morning.
Well, we think that somebody abandoned him out there where they lived.
We're not really sure, but anyway, he still wandered onto their property.
Exactly,
and
yes he did.
That's where we got him from.
That's right.
They originally brought him to the vet, and it didn't have microchip. They had him quickly assessed, and he had some kind of shoulder injury.
Yeah.
They didn't do x-rays because technically it wasn't their dog.
And they knew they weren't going to keep it.
And they weren't going to keep it, so they didn't want to invest a whole lot of money in a dog that they really weren't going to keep.
No, and they had reached out on the internet and locally to a whole bunch of different venues and social media platforms to see if they could find the owner of the dog.
Yeah.
And there was just no response, guys. There was no response at all. And frankly, it's the weirdest thing, but at least here in Arkansas, people, not all people, but people, they don't have the same love for their animals as, say, you and I do.
Yeah, definitely.
Dogs become a nuisance. They just drop them on the side of the road on some rural back road and let them fend for themselves. And when we brought Samson...
But it's also a lot of other reasons, too. It's not that they just don't want the dog, it's that they can't care for the dog anymore and have no place to bring it.
You're right.
Because here we found that shelters are so overcrowded.
That's true.
There's just not a lot of options.
No, there's not a lot of options. And the vet had told us...
If you can't afford to take care of a sick dog, then there's not a lot you can do.
No, there's not. But the vet had also told us that happens quite often, that people get a bad diagnosis and either can't handle what needs to happen or can't afford to take care of it or make that happen, so they just abandon the dog to fend for itself. We're not like that. We have a different view on it, so they reached out to us. Jason and Tara reached out to us. They knew that we were dog lovers and would take good care of the dog. And at that time, they just thought it was a sprained shoulder injury of some kind.
Like a muscle pull or something.
Yeah, exactly. What are you doing
about that? And that's kind of what the vet had told them initially, without having x-rays or any further testing. So.
Exactly. So, you went over to check out the dog.
I went over to check out the dog. I spent the night there so that I could get used to the dog. And he came and pretty much spent a lot of time because he was with Tara, so he followed her around a lot.
Yeah.
But he did warm up to me. He was really tired. He slept a good majority of the day that I was there.
Yeah.
Just kind of chilling, and he was super friendly to kids.
Yeah.
Very loving.
Yep.
You know, not any showing any signs of aggressive behavior at all.
No.
I knew that once I brought him here, he would definitely fit in.
Yeah. Yeah.
It took a little adjustment getting used to having the rabbits in the cages.
Oh
And
yeah,
then-
that was a fiasco. I wasn't here for that, guys,
Yeah.
but he was fine with everything until he got close enough to smell those rabbits, and then he wanted to play with the rabbits.
Well, I'm
Desperately.
sure that he wanted more than just to play with them. He wanted to eat them.
Yeah, he wanted a piece of those rabbits.
He was good with the chickens, though.
Yeah.
He even was around the chickens while they were out, and he would like chase them a little bit, but as soon as they would like fly off, he would just back off and leave them alone.
No,
But he did. He fit in really well here, and he followed me everywhere.
That's
he
right.
was great companion.
and we didn't know
Have
at
around.
this time whether somebody would reach out and say, "Oh, that's my dog." But as a few days progressed into a week, we decided, okay, we're going to take this dog on.
And then we decided, to bring him to the vet because he was still limping,
Yes.
and we wanted to really know what we were getting into.
Yeah, and
you know?
and could the dog need some kind of treatment to make him feel better? And we took him to the vet, and we had X-rays done, and guys, the prognosis was not good at all.
No.
Now I know shepherds have bone issues and
They
hip
usually
issues.
get hip dysplasia
Yes.
as they get older.
Yes.
But this dog definitely was not more than 3 years old. He was definitely in his younger years.
Yes.
So we didn't think it was that because it's usually the back.
Yeah. No, it
The
is
hind
usually the
legs
back.
usually get the hip dysplasia first. But this was his front shoulder.
It was, and he was limping around quite a bit. So we decided that was the best thing to do. Well, the vet came back to us, and he took a lot of X-rays.
He did.
He not only X-rayed the shoulder, he X-rayed the abdomen, the chest cavity, the whole 9 yards. Really checked out the dog really good. And after all that, he came back to us, and his diagnosis was bone cancer. To put it in layman's terms, it was bone cancer. It was osteo something sarcoma.
Yeah, he said that the bone cancer in his shoulder also was metastasizing into
And
his lungs.
And there was a bunch of spots in his chest, on his lungs, and the prognosis was not good. It was very bad. It was as bad as it could get. But we got some pain medication and scheduled a follow-up to see what was going to happen. And it was literally a week and a half later.
Probably a week and a half later.
Yeah. We were in the house. We were doing work. We were doing the framing job.
Yeah, we were framing.
And he was in there with us. And he actually, this was before we had steps on the house, and he had jumped up in there.
Yeah.
And he was following us around like he always does.
He was still pretty active even though he was limping on that shoulder.
Yeah. Hey, Samson.
Okay.
You helping?
All right.
You helping, buddy? All right. Watch yourself. Watch yourself. Samson. All right. We only need one of these to make the mark. Samson, buddy, you're not helping. You're not being helpful. Well, that's easy. There's only one mark there. Perfect. All right, I'm gonna scribe it up.
He was able to jump in and out of my car,
Yep.
in and out of the house before we had the stairs.
Yeah.
So he was still pretty active.
He was very, very active. But he was laying there, and guys, it barely touched him, but I was moving a step ladder, and I just bumped him. I just barely bumped him, and I don't think bumping him with the step ladder set it off. But he scurried away.
Probably about 20 minutes after that.
Yeah, he scurried away, and then he started really losing control of all of his muscle control.
Like, he started to get really rigid with his legs, and then he started some shaking.
Yeah.
And it was definitely to the point where he had a seizure. We knew that it was a seizure.
Yeah. And it was not a small seizure.
No,
he had an episode that lasted 45 minutes.
Yeah, it was pretty significant seizure.
Yeah.
I used to work with a bunch of people who had potential seizures, and once he was, I didn't recognize it at first, but once he was coming out of it, I know it's similar to people, but not totally similar. But I knew when he was coming out of it, when he was calming down, his eyes were glassed over, and he looked confused,
and he was drooling,
and he was drooling so much. And he wasn't a dog that drooled.
No.
You could definitely tell that he had
a
major seizure.
Yeah.
And
that was very alarming for us.
It was.
Yeah, I mean, it confirmed that there was some serious issues going on. What's the matter, Fluffy Butt? Do you need to go back in your little coop?
Well, then you shouldn't have flown out.
I know. So, yeah, that was pretty devastating, and really it made us rethink what the prognosis, how long we had with him. Now, guys, when we got the first initial vet diagnosis, we had a very long conversation. And because we could have just said, we don't want to get any more attached to the dog, let's do right by the dog and just put him down. Like I said, getting rid of him and tossing him aside was not an option for us.
No, we decided to care for him and give him his best life here.
Give him everything we could.
That he had left.
Oh,
He did.
He did. He had a good last month and a half.
Yeah.
Because it was 10 days after that seizure. Pretty much.
Yeah, it happened really quickly. During the following couple of weeks, he started to decline, and by the last week, he basically couldn't even walk to come.
Well, it wasn't the last week. It was really the last day and a half, because we would have brought him to the vet quicker. He was looking good. He was declining, but then the last half a day and into the next day, he became very lethargic, couldn't move, had trouble walking around.
Yeah, he had a hard time even getting in and out of the camper.
Yeah.
I had to basically call the vet and say, all right, I need to bring him in.
Yeah.
And
because we're not going to let him suffer.
No.
Once that first half day that he was having trouble, we were like, let's give it through the night. Yeah. Maybe he's just having some kind of symptom. Maybe he'll have another recovery, because after the seizure, he had a pretty significant recovery back to where he was.
He seemed like he was back to his
normal
old
self, happy, no problem. So we gave it that night, but when we got up, you got up in the morning,
Yeah, I got up.
It had not gotten better.
No, when I got up that next morning, he was still laying in the same spot.
Yeah.
Now, we didn't get into this, but he was obsessed about sleeping with us on the bed. So when Eric wasn't here, he
sleeping with her on the bed.
He slept with me every single night on the bed, like,
and would not get off.
No, and you couldn't even like move him. Like I had to like pull up the covers just to roll him over a little bit because he wasn't moving.
No, he wanted to be with you.
He needed to touch me the entire time that he was laying there.
And then when I was home from the road, he would try the same thing.
And try to lay right on top of you.
Yeah, he would. He wanted to be there so bad that he would jump up on the bed and he would come and he would lay on top of me in an attempt to get me to get out of the way so that he could lay down.
Squeeze right in.
I'm like, no, dude, this is my bed.
But so that morning when I had gotten up, he had not moved from the same spot that I left him in the night before. He didn't even try to get up on the bed. No crying, no whining. He just kind of laid there.
Yeah.
And I knew that it was time.
Yeah.
He couldn't even get up. Like, he didn't mess in the house or anything. But I had to physically, like, get him up, and I wrapped a towel around his back end so that I could lift him up to get him to go outside to the bathroom. Because that was the only way. Like, he was pretty heavy. There was no way I was going to be able to carry him out there.
No. So he went to the vet that morning.
Yeah, which I had to, like, because it was so wet and muddy, I'm still not able to drive my car down the driveway. I actually had to put the harness on and do the same thing with the towel. So between the harness and the towel, kind of
to get him up to the driveway.
Front.
Yeah.
That was a lot for him.
Yeah.
And then trying to lift him to get him into the car. Yeah.
So he was definitely, I think we made the right decision.
I think so. I mean, I know so. Like, we didn't want the dog to suffer.
No, not at all.
And yes, he wasn't here that long, but
he was a good boy.
He had a good life here.
Yeah, no. With the time that he spent in here, he had a really good life. We took him out all the time, walked around. He spent a lot of time with us.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
I put him in the car every time I had to go somewhere. He was in the car with me.
Yeah.
He like went everywhere.
Yeah, he went. If when we get another dog, I want it to be just like Samson.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely, he was a good boy. But yeah, that's the story, guys. Samson was only here for a short amount of time.
Yeah.
And we tried to do the best that we could for him while he was here. And I feel good with the decisions that we made. I think we did right by Samson.
We did.
We did. So I hope that answers all your questions about Samson, because a lot of you have reached out. Oh, what a beautiful shepherd. Where did he come from and what's the story?
Yeah, we just had to wait until we were ready to share it.
Yeah, we weren't, it was a little too raw when it first all transpired, but we will be getting more dogs eventually, but
we've both decided that we need to wait for our house to be finished.
Yeah, we don't want to raise a dog in the camper, especially a new dog. We need the house to be finished.
Yeah.
So probably this summer we will be without dogs. But it's weird, guys. I'll tell you, it's really weird because even now I wake up in the morning and come out to go to the bathroom and go make coffee, and I look around because I'm not tripping over a dog. So we've had dogs our whole lives, and
yeah, and just hearing noises in the middle of the night, you think like, oh, is that the dog? No,
it's not
the dog. We don't have a dog.
We don't have a dog. So all right, guys. I hope this brings clarity to all your questions. Thanks for joining us, and have a good one. We'll see you later.
Bye, guys.
Bye.